There's a theory floating around that Arthur Harrow from Moon Knight might actually be Doctor Doom in disguise. And while there's absolutely evidence that supports that theory, I have something else that's going to blow your mind.
Oh, it's got to be one of the big uns.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, diving into a Moon Knight theory discussion specifically about Arthur Harrow and whether or not he might be Doctor Doom in disguise, as well as breaking down a couple of other theories about who his character might actually be. I'm going to warn you guys before we go into this one that we are talking about episodes 1 through 4 in Moon Knight so far, and everything that we've learned about Arthur Harrow, played by the great Ethan Hawke, up until this point, which means spoilers. So if you haven't seen them yet, go watch them now. They're on Disney+. Come on back, watch our video. In order to make sure that you're watching all the new videos that we're posting about Moon Knight and Marvel and Star Wars and everything entertainment related, you want to keep it here on our YouTube channel. So hit subscribe, turn on those notifications, and as soon as a new video drops, you guys will be the first ones to know.
Come, will you accept your scales regardless of the outcome?
Let's start off with the Doctor Doom theory and all the evidence that we've seen so far in the episodes that point out why this could be Victor Von Doom that Ethan Hawke is playing. So, of course, Doom is a huge villain in the Marvel Comics, and fans are waiting for when he's going to show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When we saw Stephen wake up outside of this castle, some fans who really want Doctor Doom to be part of the Moon Knight series believe that this could be Castle Von Doom, and especially when it's located in a small European town, they latched onto the concept of Latveria. So Latveria is a location in the Marvel Comics where Doom is essentially the ruler, and he turns it into a bit of his kingdom, and when you see the citizens of the small village sort of worshipping Arthur Harrow, I understand why people might say, like, these are the people who from Latveria who are worshipping Doom. It goes to further that when Stephen is escaping in the cupcake truck, and in the background, some of the boxes that are obscured, you could see Von D. And of course, the fans who want this theory to be accurate jump to the conclusion that this was Victor Von Doom. We did see some guards who were patrolling the castle. They started shooting at Stephen as he was running away. And of course, Doom has plenty of guards that are surrounding his castle. So all these little elements sort of point to the fact that Doom might be relevant in Moon Knight. Of course, we also know that Marvel has announced a Fantastic Four movie. Victor Von Doom is a huge element of the Fantastic Four mythology, and as we've seen in some of the previous movies that did the Fantastic Four origin story, they included Doom in them as well too. So you could introduce Doom through a television series and get him into the MCU before introducing the Fantastic Four, but I kind of want to point out some of the reasons why I think that this fascinating Doom theory is actually kind of wrong in my next section.
Sometimes the cure is a little taste of the disease.
Now let's stop just for a second and realize that most of the clues I'm pointing out here, if not all of them, have been limited to the first episode of Moon Knight. The Latverian village, the castle, the cupcake truck. So maybe we jumped to conclusions a little bit too soon. And Marvel fans, you've done this before. Do you remember the Mephisto argument throughout all of WandaVision? That didn't turn out to be true. And for that reason, I kind of believe that this one might not turn out to be true. And the first reason is that the Von D eventually got revealed to be spelling out Von Darrelman. Totally harmless, not Victor Von Doom. Also, personally, I just don't believe that Doctor Doom, a massive villain on the scale of Marvel Comics, would get introduced through a Disney Plus series from Marvel Studios that maybe not everyone is watching. This is a villain that could be overarching for multiple phases. Like, if you do Doom correctly, he has crossed paths with every single Marvel superhero over the course of time, including Moon Knight. So I do understand why some people could see how he would show up here because of the way that Mark collects ancient relics, and Doom sometimes needs relics to complete massive schemes of his. While I also do say that, introducing him in a Disney Plus series doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I have to counter myself by saying that Kang, of all people, who we think is going to be the overarching villain of Phase 4, got introduced in Loki. So there is precedent for using the Disney Plus series to set up larger villains. But, making Doom the villain in disguise in Moon Knight doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense for the story that they're telling right now. And given the fact that most of the clues that exist to his potentially being the villain in disguise are limited to the first episode, I'm going to leave it at the fact that right now, I don't believe through 4 episodes that Arthur Harrow is playing Victor Von Doom. So if that's the case, who is he playing? Well, I have a theory on that one right now too.
Do you want to know the truth?
You're probably asking why Arthur has to be anyone. Well, he definitely has secrets, and the idea that he's Arthur Harrow doesn't hold enough weight because that character is only mentioned once in the Moon Knight comics. Here's who I think Arthur actually is, and this dives into the Egyptian mythology that has been really relevant in the show up until this point. He's been selling himself as the potential avatar, future avatar for Ammit. And while Ammit is a Egyptian god who is supposed to have devoured people who were deemed unworthy, but it's not actually Ammit who uses scales to weigh the good or bad of an individual, but it's Anubis. So Anubis uses these scales to weigh the heart of an individual to determine whether they are worthy or not to proceed. This was an ancient ceremony called the weighing of the heart. The heart is actually the location of someone's life spirit, or Ka, at that point. And so Anubis would weigh the person's heart against the weight of a feather. And if the heart was heavier than a feather, which of course is extremely light, then it was deemed unworthy. The scales that are part of the tattoo that Arthur Harrow is showing on his arm and actually using to judge different people is more related to Anubis than it is to Ammit. And Anubis would sort of judge people first, and then Ammit would devour their souls if they were deemed unworthy. So some people have speculated online that the character of Arthur Harrow, who, as I mentioned, was only used once in the Moon Knight comics and was trying to complete some other totally different mission that has nothing to do with going on in this series right now. It would not be like bringing in a Norman Osborn for Spider-Man or the Mandarin for Tony Stark, like their arch nemesis. Arthur Harrow is a relatively irrelevant character from the Moon Knight mythology. But Ammit and Anubis are two Egyptian gods who have been really important to the story of Moon Knight, and it makes sense that they're going through here. So Anubis is represented quite often by a creature who has the head of a jackal and the body of a man. And we do know we've seen two instances over the course of Moon Knight where jackals have attacked both Stephen and Mark. There's the end of episode 1, beginning of episode 2, where they attack him in the museum, and then there's the fight that takes place in the streets. These are hints, I believe, that it's Anubis who's conjuring this creature to go after Mark and attack him. When you see what Arthur Harrow is trying to complete, he knows that Mark is an obstacle to his ultimate mission. When he tries to read him the way that Anubis would with the scales, he's kind of shocked to realize that Mark represents chaos. And I think in recognizing that, he kind of accepts that he has to get Mark out of his way. He has to get him off the board in order for him to complete the ultimate mission that he's trying to pull off. And with getting Mark off the board comes getting Khonshu off the board.
And in the wake of their screams, evil eradicated.
So there's a lot of evidence that suggests, because of the ways that he is balancing the scales and judging people, that he's far more Anubis than he is Ammit. But I do think that he's Anubis working towards a goal that will free Ammit, which is probably what this entire series is building towards.
Well, isn't that a bit dodgy, like trusting the judgment of a weird crocodile lady?
So what does that mean for Moon Knight as a series? Essentially, Ammit is asleep, and I think that Arthur Harrow is working really hard in order to wake the god and bring her back to power. He refers quite often to the fact that she is going to be the one who's leading this army of people moving forward. Now, Mark kind of is afraid for Layla because he thinks that Khonshu wants Layla to become her avatar. But what if, in fact, Arthur Harrow is Anubis and working to wake up Ammit to make Layla the potential avatar of Ammit, and that Mark is confused or wrong about this, thinking that it's Khonshu who wants Layla, but it's actually Arthur who wants Layla for Ammit. There's one other really important element that we have to discuss, which is the scarab that everybody has been trying to get their hands on. And in case we're to doubt how important this is, when we are in the institution scene, which prior to us seeing episode 5 right now, we talked about in an analysis video that I think that that's an illusion that's being conjured to keep Mark confused. Layla actually has the scarab on a band-aid that she has on her finger, and that is very clear in the shot that people want us to see it. So if the scarab is leading us to Ammit so that Ammit could be awoken, then it does make even more sense that Layla would become the avatar of Ammit once she is awake. I want to believe ultimately that this is going to lead to a massive confrontation between an awoken Ammit and potentially with Layla as her avatar, and maybe Anubis and Arthur Harrow going after the Council of Gods. But that seems a bit too lofty for a Disney Plus series to have a massive showdown of that size and scale. So I kind of think it really is going to boil down just to Stephen and Mark combined versus Arthur Harrow, maybe with the fate of Layla in balance about who's going to essentially, will she get taken control of as an avatar for Amit, or is Mark going to figure out a way to free her and allow her to be her own individual self and prevent the things that he's been trying to prevent over the course of the first 4 episodes.
What do you think? Is that a coincidence?
We're throwing a lot of stuff at you for this, but so far Moon Knight has thrown a lot at us, especially if we go back through those first 4 episodes with these ideas in mind. You'll realize how many clues are sort of pointing in the direction and misdirection of things that Marvel wants us to see and not see, and understand and not understand. I kind of love that about this show, because not only with the duality of the Mark and Steven and who is in control of Moon Knight, there's so much going on with both Layla and Arthur Harrow. It's kept the show to be really fascinating, which is exactly why I want you to keep it here on our YouTube channel for our further analysis of episodes 5 and 6, because once we got to the end of episode 4 and the way that concluded, this show really can go in a million different directions. And based on everything we've discussed here in this video, it's going to have huge impacts, not just on the Moon Knight show, but on the MCU as a whole. So keep it right here on CinemaBlend. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and we'll see you back here for another in-depth analysis of Moon Knight and the MCU.